Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Mackey Arena. Hour or two after Purdue's fan day scrimmages concluded. Wanted to give you a break from a football game that isn't going terribly well for Purdue right now. I'm on my way to Indy here in a second to go cover the Pacers-Pistons game. Hopefully get to talk to Eady about the start of his NBA career. But just wanted to put a couple of thoughts on video here. I guess we'll call this our second wrap video of the season. The first one coming at Big Ten Media Day in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago. Thank you to our sponsor, the Purdue Union Club Hotel. As always, very much appreciate your support. It's the home of the Boiler Up Bar and the 811 Bistro. All very, very nice places. I only frequent the classiest and nicest of places, and I can tell you that those are a couple of go-tos for everybody as classy as me. A couple of quick takeaways just from these scrimmages. One, the relevance of them is extremely limited because the split squad nature of this event, as is the case in all of sports, makes for some strange bedfellows from a personnel perspective. Some wonky combinations, things like that. So obviously you never want to take results from something like this and really draw all that much from it. That was the case today. Purdue didn't even run any man defense, I don't think. I think that they were almost exclusively simulating zone, working on zone offense, things like that. So that's a pretty important part of the game that I can't really tell you anything about here after these scrimmages today. That has nothing to do with split squad nature of this, but obviously, Purdue has one true point guard on its roster, and that guy could only be on one team at a time. So that's one of the few dynamics here that made this a little bit of a warped reality, as it does every year. But one obvious takeaway from this, and you don't even need me to tell you this, is that Purdue is going to play as much through Zach Eady as Zach Eady can handle. You saw a lot of infrastructure being put in place here to get Zach Eady the ball. You saw a lot of players looking at him first and foremost. I thought Mason Gillis did a great job entering the ball into the post. I thought Fletcher Lawyer looked mature beyond his years entering the ball into the post. Ethan Morton, who's going to be one of your best entry guys, had a couple misfires, a couple turnovers on overthrows, things like that. I don't think that's anything that's going to be enduring. I think that's probably just the nature of a preseason event in a relatively casual environment. Split squad nature once again. But I thought Purdue did a good job, especially in the I can't remember if it was the third. It doesn't matter what scrimmage it was. I'm just taking all of this as one huge entity here and not breaking them down into the individual scrimmages. Purdue did a good job, I thought, getting the ball up the floor quick with Eady and making sure that they could get the ball entered and he could get deep position before there was any help around to deny him those one-on-one opportunities that obviously make him a really difficult cover. That's going to be an emphasis for Purdue. I think, even without Jaden Ivey, I think tempo is really going to matter for Purdue this season. I think the team that Zach Eady wasn't on made an emphasis to beat him down the floor, and the team he was on made an emphasis to get him down the floor very quickly to get that post position he needs very much. Basically, everybody was moving fast, and I think that's something that can matter a little bit for Purdue this year. But Zach Eady was really good today. Zach Eady's going to be really good this year. One thing about his season is it's really going to put his decision-making to the test. He had 4 turnovers today. He is going to draw a lot of double teams. Purdue is going to want people at times double-teaming him because some of their best offense has and can come off people double-teaming him, getting the ball out of there quick, getting the ball moving around the perimeter, catching a defense, scrambling on closeouts, things like that. That's where, Purdue with Swanigan and Isaac Haas and guys like that were really able to hurt people offensively, even more than they could in those one-on-one matchups around the rim. I think that's something to really look for, how sharp his passing is, how decisive he is with the ball in his hands, things like that. You could make the case, for as much as we're going to talk about guard play this year, Zach Eady is Purdue's most important decision maker from an offensive perspective, and I think the 4 turnovers today, while certainly not cause for alarm, that's going to be a category to kind of watch for him this year. A category to watch for him this year that was a rousing success today, him making all 7 of his foul shots. You know, quietly, he did take a little bit of a step back at the foul line last year, shot under 65%. For a guy who's going to draw as many fouls, presumably as he will this season, for a guy who's going to be at the line as much as he presumably will be and obviously should be, I think anything short of 70%, you'd love for him to be around 75, things like that. It's a really big deal, especially those one-and-ones in the first half of games where you really want to twist the knife on some of those cheap fouls that start to pile up on you. So him going 7-7 from the foul line, while not the end-all, be-all of that issue, I think he looked more like he did his freshman year when that form was picturesque. The results were shocking for a guy that big at the foul line, because as you know, guys who are that big typically aren't the best foul shooters because they don't generally shoot basketballs from anywhere outside of a foot or two from the rim, and their hands are gigantic. And that's a thing all throughout basketball. But he looked great today. That's a great sign for Purdue if he can maintain that. Another thing from today, I think Purdue's freshman guards, are ready. I think they are gonna, as ready as you can be. That's a position where you really don't want to have to live through youth. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Freshman guards are going to make mistakes, but you have to love the way, if you're a Purdue partisan, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer carry themselves, because they carry themselves like they own the arena. They're unflappable guys. They're extremely confident. You can't tell me that sort of confidence and that sort of tenacity is not infectious, at least to the extent that the older guys on the team don't have to worry about them. They might not need the confidence themselves exuding off the freshmen, but seeing it from freshmen has to give you confidence in them to do what they're supposed to do, to play with confidence and things like that. Both of those guys are going to be really, really good players at Purdue. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that process to really begin in earnest right away this year. I think Braden Smith has been the story of the preseason for Purdue. I think he's quieted a lot of the questions around Purdue's point guard mix. You'd love to have more than one, and you'd love to have more experience in the one you have. But I think Purdue's quite confident in Braden Smith. I think they have been ever since he got to campus. I think they have been ever since they signed him. To be honest with you, I think Fletcher Lawyer is tailor-made for Purdue from an offensive perspective. And I think his swagger, his confidence, the way he carries himself, those are things that are going to matter. But his shooting, I think, even though he didn't shoot great today, I don't think that's that big a deal, but I think he's going to be one of the better shooters Purdue's had come through this program in time. I think he's a guy with more layers to his offensive game than some of the guys like him who've come through. You saw him be really effective in pick and roll with Caleb First in that third scrimmage, really putting Zach Eady in some uncomfortable situations, having to guard. And I think that makes Zach Eady a little better, having to face that stuff now, too. But Fletcher Lawyer is a great decision maker. He's a good ball handler. He's a crafty offensive player. And that's really going to show up long-term and short-term for Purdue. Just going to be a really good player at Purdue. You're going to really enjoy watching him play, I think. Brandon Newman, I thought, was really good today, even though he only finished 4 of 11 from the floor with 9 points. I think he made good decisions. He played under control. No turnovers. That's a great statistic on a day when Purdue did turn the ball over too much. That is something they got to get out of their systems, because they're not talented enough to overcome it this year the way they might have been most of the time last year. That was their fatal flaw last year. If that's a fatal flaw this year, this team is really going to be in a bind because they can't just score their way out of it the way they oftentimes could last year. That's kind of what I got. I thought Camden Heide looked really good. I don't know where he fits in this year. I have him pegged for a redshirt year. That's just an educated guess on my part. I just think it makes sense. He's missed a lot of practice in the summer. He just missed another week plus of practice just now, but he comes in after having missed a lot of practice, puts in 5 points, 1 on a three-pointer where he looked really good shooting it. The other 3 he missed, he looked really good shooting it. A really nice runner off a closeout that I'd never seen him do before. I didn't see him play a whole lot before Purdue because proximity and and pandemics and all that stuff. But he also got a lot of contested rebounds, played hard, it seemed like, just looked really good, looked like a real prospect. And I think you got time on your side with him. But I thought he looked good today. It's kind of what I got. I wish I could tell you more about defense, but it was all simulated zones. So not really going to put any stock in that. So that's what I got. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your promotional considerations. Once again, we appreciate it very much. I have a full story, a full analysis, post-scrimmage interviews up on the site right now. Go check that out. As I get to it, I will have some video clips from this as well. And I will hopefully have some coverage of Jaden Ivey tonight playing in his third NBA game at the Pacers. So stay tuned to Golden Black. What are we called again? goldenblack.com. Stay tuned to our site for all that stuff. Be sure to follow us on all our social channels as well in the event that we have to get you some pertinent news should it arise at some point. I'm at Brian Neubert on Twitter. We're at goldenblack.com on Twitter. At Alan Karpik is pretty easy to remember. At Tom Deanhart 1. We have to get that 1 off his Twitter handle at some point. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials. However it is you process our materials. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night.